Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about something that happens to almost all of us at some point. What happens when the life you knew just disappears? A layoff, a divorce, the end of a big chapter? We're going to unpack how that crisis, that moment where it feels like everything's burned to the ground, can actually be the start of your greatest reinvention. Okay, I know, this might sound completely ridiculous right now, especially if you are reeling from a huge life change. It might even feel a little insulting. But this idea that a painful ending is secretly an invitation, well, that's the core concept we're really going to explore today. That's the question, isn't it? The one that echoes in the quiet. You were, Sarah, the VP of Finance. You were part of a couple. When those big defining roles are just stripped away, the silence can be absolutely deafening. So let's break down how this whole process really unfolds. So, the first stage is just acknowledging the sheer shock of it all. This isn't just a setback, It's what experts call the identity earthquake. It's that moment when the very ground beneath your sense of self completely gives way. This feeling of profound disorientation, it's not a sign that you're failing at recovery. It is a completely predictable, super common aftermath of a major life disruption. You're not losing your mind. You've just lost your map for a little while. And believe it or not, this experience actually has a clinical name: identity erasure. Whether it happens slowly over years in a high-pressure job or much faster in a toxic relationship, this is a recognized phenomenon. And honestly, just knowing it's a real thing, that can be so incredibly validating. Look at how different all of these are, right? A layoff, a breakup, a health scare, but the feeling of losing your grip on who you are, that is the one thread that connects every single one of them. The role that once defined you also kind of confined you, and now you're left in that quiet space it left behind. And this isn't just some late-night philosophical question you ponder. It's a genuine, disorienting state of confusion. Think about it: your routines, your inside jokes, your professional purpose. When those things disappear, it feels like a part of your brain has literally been switched off. So this state of confusion, it leads us right into our next phase, something trauma therapists call the blank slate. And with it, well, comes a really dangerous trap that society often sets for us. So here's the crucial point, and it's a big one. This is not about going backwards. It is not about finding the old you. The truth is, that person, as wonderful as they were, might have had vulnerabilities that led to this point. The real goal is to build a new version of yourself from the ground up. But let's be honest, this pressure to perform a quick recovery is just incredibly toxic. It treats a human being like a malfunctioning machine that just needs a quick software update. It totally dismisses the profound identity shift that has to happen. And this table just illustrates the fundamental choice you have perfectly. Are you trying to recover what was lost, just scrambling to recreate the past? Or are you using this moment to intentionally reinvent what your future could look like? It's really the difference between reacting to a crisis and creating from it. Okay, so how do you actually start this whole reinvention thing? Well, you don't try to build a massive bonfire overnight. That's just overwhelming. You start by finding and nurturing the tiny little embers that are still glowing, even if you can't really see them yet. Even if you feel like your fire has been completely put out by shame or grief or failure, people like Sarah Jakes Roberts remind us that as long as you are breathing, there are embers. Your very existence, your breath itself, is proof that the light wasn't completely extinguished. So this journey doesn't start with some big 5-year plan. No way. It begins with these 3 small, manageable steps. First, you just stop. You stop trying to fix everything. Then, you take stock of what's left. And most importantly, you start the small, quiet work of remembering what you actually like. A trauma-informed approach suggests you start rebuilding that identity muscle with the simplest choices imaginable. Go to the grocery store, stand in the cereal aisle, and don't buy what your ex liked or what your kids want. Buy the one you want. Put on a song that makes your body feel good. These aren't silly exercises. They're how you start to relearn the language of yourself. So once you started reconnecting with those basic preferences, you can move on to the bigger work, designing the actual architecture of your new self. This is where we move from those tiny embers to a real blueprint. This is really about defining your own moral compass. What do you actually stand for, now that you aren't just trying to survive someone else's chaos or climb a corporate ladder that maybe wasn't even yours? It's all about aligning your daily actions with your core beliefs. And tools like the Life Wheel assessment are just brilliant for this. They give you a clear, really honest snapshot of where you are right now. By rating your satisfaction in these different areas, you can stop feeling so vaguely overwhelmed and start intentionally deciding where to focus your rebuilding energy. Here's another really powerful exercise. What if you imagined the version of you 5 years from now who is absolutely thriving? What would she say to you today? Writing this letter connects you to a future of hope, and it reminds you that this painful moment, it's just one chapter. It is not your whole story. The results of all this work, this entire journey, it isn't a return to the old you. It's the emergence of something new, a self that's authentic, that's resilient, and that's been forged in fire. A self that is, in a way, unbreakable. This right here, this is what that shift sounds like. Tara's story shows that move from an identity defined by an external role, her marriage, to one that's defined by her own internal core values. She decided who she was, for herself. And for Rachel, what felt like this huge rejection from the outside was actually a redirection inward. It forced her to trust herself more than she trusted the false security of a corporate job. That crisis became the catalyst for true self-reliance. And Maya's experience, wow, it just brilliantly illustrates that liberation we talked about at the very beginning. The crisis didn't just end a job. It ended a life path that was never truly hers to begin with. It gave her permission to define success completely on her own terms. And that's the ultimate question, isn't it? A crisis, a layoff, a divorce. It feels like something was taken away from you. But what if you saw it as the moment where your life, in all its messy, brilliant potential, was simply handed back to you? This isn't an ending. It's an invitation to stop performing and to start creating a life that is truly authentically your own.